2020 Democrats. Craps. I'll stick with it. 2020 Democrats. Well, this looks like a good one. 2020 Democrats. Craps. I'll stick with it. 2020 Democrats keep shifting left. Moderates fret they'll shift even further on next debate. Oh, we'll find out tonight, which I'm not going to watch because why waste my time on such frivolous activities? This is from McClatchy, I guess the DC Bureau, which would make sense because I might be in DC. You never know. Let's see what it says. Where are you at? All right. Get the heck. Okay. Bob Buckhorn remembers sitting at home in Florida last month watching the first Democrat presidential debate and openly worrying about what he's seeing. The former centrist mayor of Tampa said the candidates were lurching much too far on the left on key policy issues, damaging the party's chances of defeating President Trump during next year's election. Quote, I don't think most Americans are comfortable with some of what they've heard last debate, unquote. And I think it's time, and I think it's unfortunate. Imagine that. Buckhorn's view is common one among moderate Democrats. In interviews, many of them expressed deep concern at this week's debate. In Detroit will feature another inevitable shift to the left, one will alienate swing voters in the battleground states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Last month, Democratic candidates debated and in many cases embraced issues like eliminating private health insurance and decriminalizing illegal border crossings that are unpopular with border electorate. Yep. Even some of those who participate in the debate are unsure where the conversation will move next. This ought to be good. Let's see what these knuckleheads are going to say. Stop it. There you go. Quote, the primary is becoming about moving the goalposts on the issues, said John Delaney, one of the presidential race's most outspoken moderate candidates. Quote, and you never know what the next one's going to be, unquote. Yeah, you never know. Because they just might, embrace, I don't know, flat out, authoritarianism. I mean, kind of what they're doing. Primaries traditionally encourage candidates to back policy proposals that appeal more to the party's ideological fervent base than moderates in most cases. Whoever emerges at the eventual nominee inevitably pivots back toward the center in general election. Exactly. But Trump never really did that, if I remember correctly. He kind of just stuck with the base, if you will. I don't know who Trump's base is. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, I mean, who is it? He encompasses a wide swath of people, but that's what the Democrats are doing right now. They're sort of embracing the craziness of far left ideology, and I know why they're doing it, because they're trying to, sort of make a name for themselves to get buzz, but you can't. The farther left you go, the more crazy you get. And the more crazy you get, you might push those people you want to vote for you away, especially the people in the center. And people in the center are looking at this, and you can't. The internet's forever. You can't get rid of it. Once you say something now, in a couple of months, it's going to come back up. But but centrist Democrats say the last debate was, even for primary, unusually fixated on subjects that either didn't interest or repel voters in the middle of the political spectrum. It says, quote, I hope that in the next debate there's more of a discussion about education and public safety and issues of the economy and those other issues that a lot of moderates are looking for, said former Democratic Senator Mark Begich of Alaska. Even more alarming, they said, was the speed at which some once fringe issues were widely adopted by the presidential field, like decriminalizing border crossings. Exactly. So you can break into a country, or the United States, that's an illegal act, and then we'll just decriminalize it. So that couldn't possibly, warrant more people to do that, to break the law, which is not a law anymore, to break over into the country. Exactly. So, but even then, they're still doing it, regardless if it's illegal or not. See, the idea gained a broad acceptance amongst the candidates after being introduced by former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro, despite polls showing that it had little support among the broader public and even backing within the Democrat Party. Just 27% of Americans say it would be a good idea to decriminalize border crossings, while 66% say it would be a bad idea, according to this NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll released last week. The idea split support among Democrats, with 45% saying it would be a good idea and 47% saying a bad idea. Yeah, probably don't want to lead with that, Julian, but you keep doing that. Yeah, it's a good idea. Moderate Democrats say they want White House hopefuls to condemn Trump's immigration policy and show support for plans to grant citizenship to undocumented immigrants. You mean illegal immigrants? Didn't matter. Undocumented, illegal. I'm an undocumented serial killer. You get the point. But the discussion that avoids any talk of border security is politically dangerous, they argue, especially with a president who plans to make immigration the centerpiece for his re-election campaign. Quote, what President Trump would like to do is for us to talk about the rights of Central Americans instead of the rights of American citizens, said Scott Peters, moderate Democratic congressman from the San Diego area. And quote, and we can't fall into that trap, unquote, which you already did there, buddy boy. Peters, a member of the center-left group in the House called the New Democrats, encouraged his party's presidential candidates to emulate the agenda and style of the host of freshman Democrats who won battleground districts last year in midterm elections. Most of the focus their general election campaigns were relentlessly on GOP efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which would remove protection for men and women with pre-existing medical conditions, while touting a liberal, if more pragmatic, set of policy goals that's aligned with the approach of some presidential candidates, most notably former Vice President Joe Biden, who has argued that he wants to preserve Obamacare while criticizing some of his opponents for wanting to switch instead of a single-payer system. Quote, we should all be concerned about that we not lose touch with those people who are really going to matter winning this election, Peter said. He is surprised that there wasn't more of a defense, for instance, of Obamacare and defense of immigration policy that helps our economy and recognizes the importance of the borders at the same time, unquote. Yeah, Peters is going to get primary, it looks like. The conflict among Democrats in this part stems from the different views of the party can defeat Trump. For some, they think the key is driving up the turnout among their core liberal base. Again, I mentioned this before. In my opinion, there's 40% liberals, 40% conservatives, and then the rest of them are the center. If you drive the center too far, I guess you do. If you go too far to the left, you're going to drive the center to the right, and vice versa. So, I don't know what their liberal core voters are already going to vote for them regardless. Just like that guy, Eric Sparks, who, called that lady in the checkout line with too many items a biatch. And he said, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote Democrat to the day I die. Because that's what the Democrats need. Someone to just keep voting just because there's a D next to someone's name. For others, like Jeff Smith, a former Democratic state lawmaker in Missouri, the key is winning over more moderate independent voters. Smith said when he watched last month's debate in a right-leaning part of his home state, he kept thinking on how few people near him would agree with the Democratic presidential candidates were saying. Missouri isn't a swing state, he said, but many of the middle-of-the-road voters in the state are similar to the ones Democrats need to win over Wisconsin and Michigan next year. That's why he wishes the candidates would steer the conversation to policies with more support, he said, despite his own progressive ideological convictions. Quote, I am for most things. Yes, I'm for most things, Smith said. I'm also know that in the span of 18 months, we aren't going to change enough minds to make the median voter's position. And he's correct. They're not going to, it's already too late. If you haven't started this, I would say last year, if you want, about this time, the thing is that these far left Democrats have already shifted the narrative. They're pushing these far left ideologies and policies that they want to push if and when they do can become president on the American people, and especially people in the center. I don't know. I have this. I have a, not necessarily disdain, but a sort of a watchful eye on the people in the center. It just seems like, well, I'm going to vote this way this time, I'm going to vote this way this time. It's like they're just kind of wishy-washy. They're just kind of like, they'll say, well, I make up my own mind. I'm going to vote this way. Okay, you know, I just, independent voters are just, I don't know. My trust for them is, you know, you can't really trust the independent or a moderate voter. They just kind of just, you know, they just kind of just go where the wind blows them. And they're just like, oh, I'm going this way. I'm going this way. So, again, I think this article is pretty interesting in the fact that what this guy Jeff Smith, a former Democratic state lawmaker in Missouri, stated that in the span of 8, you can't change. I guess what he was saying. I'll quote the last paragraph. Says, "I'm for most things. Yes, I'm for most things." Smith said. I also know that in the span of 18 months, we aren't going to change enough minds to make those median voters position. Meaning that, like I said a couple seconds ago, about a minute ago, if you wanted to change a voter's mind, you just can't do it 2 months before the election. 2 months before they start voting. Meaning that you can't do it. Let's say they say a month, like, you know, let's say November 7th is the election day. You can't start doing a really cool, you know, middle of the road policy proposal a month out or a month before, like October 7th. It's almost impossible because you need to have that idea and that position foment to the people and go, you know, and have really people like, you know, reflect on it and go, you know, it's a really good idea. You should have done that last year, like I've said before. But they didn't. They're pushing out these really crazy ideas. Medicare for all. I think John Delaney was talking about like a climate corps, and I think the price tag was $4 trillion, meaning that when people got out of high school, they worked for the government. You know, I don't know. You know, putting rubber seals in windows and putting solar panels on buildings or something like that, all at the cost of $4 trillion. Which, I don't know how you're going to get that money. We're already at $23 trillion in debt, not including the $130 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Meaning that's the money, or that's the things that we paid for now, or we're going to have to pay for later. That's coming up, like Social Security, Medicare, healthcare, etc. So, again, this guy Jeff Smith is correct. They should have done these middle-of-the-road, moderate policy proposals last year. They're too late. But again, no one ever thought, you know, Trump would be the president of the United States, and look where we're at. So anything's possible. But I think he's correct in the assumption that it's already too late. They're pushing far left to get those people on the far fringed left, you know, the Antifa folks, to essentially vote for him. But who knows? We do live in a crazy time, and I mean, who knows, right? Anything can happen.